Alright, Trekkies and Trekkers, time for the final episode of Review of the Day, which is Starship Down. The U.S. has defined rendezvous with a Karema Commerce Ministry vessel above a remote gas giant in the Gamma Quadrant in order to discuss trade issues. In a meeting between Trade Minister Hanok, Captain Benjamin Sisko, and Quark in the Defiance Mess Hall, Hanok expresses frustration in trading with the Federation, citing a series of mysterious heavy taxes and fees. Since the Ferengi are being used as middlemen between the Federation and Kremma to avoid angering the Dominion, Sisko realizes that Quark is responsible. In command on the bridge, Worf reprimands Isengard for poor results in a weapons drill and orders a 15% decrease in response times. Meanwhile, in the aft section of the bridge, Major Karen Reese tells Lieutenant Commander Jadzia Dax that she is fasting in observation of Hamara, the anniversary of the emissary's arrival to Bajor. Kira voices her suspicion that Sisko purposely scheduled the trade negotiations to avoid attending Hamara. Dax tells her Sisko dislikes ceremonies in which he is the center of attention. Kira expresses her wish that he had attended, as it would have meant a lot to the Bajoran people. Suddenly, sensors pick up two incoming Jem'Hadar warships. Worf orders Red Alert and all hands to battle stations and calls Sisko to the bridge. Sisko and Mr. Hanok enter the bridge. Hanok believes the Jem'Hadar have come to punish the Karema for trading with the Federation and offers to surrender himself in the hope that they may spare his ship. But Sisko does not intend to hand him over. The Jem'Hadar begin attacking both ships. In blind panic, the Karema ship begins moving away, fleeing to the atmosphere of the gaseous Class J planet. The Jem'Hadar and the Defiant are in hot pursuit. Karen notes that she is reading wind speeds of 10,000 kilometers per hour, while Hanok, overwhelmed with guilt, knows that 23 people are on that ship. Sisko is determined to save the trade ship and orders the Defiant into the planet's turbulent atmosphere. Chief Miles O'Brien and his young subordinates, crewman Muniz and Stevens, attempt to channel more power into the ship's structural integrity fields. Despite their efforts, the ship is violently buffeted by air currents. Inside the gas giant, the crew discover more bad news. The interference has restricted their sensor visibility to less than 2 kilometers, plus rendered their cloaking device weapon targeting systems inoperable. Phasers will have to be manually targeted. Kieran Dax suggests using modulated tetra impulses to actively scan via echolocation. During the occupation, Kira uses this method to evade Cardassian ships in the Badlands. Unfortunately, each pulse would give the Defiant's location away as well, meaning the ship would have to change speed and course after every scan they make. As the crew begins working on their echolocation scanner, Mr. Hanok returns to the mess hall. There, Quark tries to convince Hanok that bogus surcharges were honest mistakes by his idiot brother Rom. Hanok doesn't buy the explanation and controls Quark that, if they survive, he'll ensure that Quark will never again be able to conduct commerce in the Gamma Quadrant. Meanwhile, on the bridge, the echolocation pulses have detected an object 400 kilometers beneath them. The Defiant gingerly moves towards it, emitting pulses to keep its bearings. Suddenly, two more blips appear moving fast toward them. It is a Jem'Hadar. The Defiant is rocked hard by phaser fire. Shields are drained to 60%, and emergency lights flicker on. Impulse power goes offline, and the ship starts falling toward the planet. With ODN relays overloaded, Dax and Muniz race Jeffrey's tube before it manually reroute power to the engines. As the external hull pressure rises, the ship groans ominously. On the bridge, Worf delivers more damage reports to Sisko. The phaser couplings have overloaded and will take 2 hours to repair. Sisko brainstorms a plan with O'Brien to equip their 2 atmospheric probes with quantum torpedo warheads. O'Brien sends nervous young engineer Stevens to the torpedo bay to modify the probes. O'Brien asks crewman Janklow to retrieve a dualitic inverter from the ship's cargo bay. Suddenly, a large explosion rocks the ship. A hull breach has occurred on Deck 2, knocking out crewman Janklow. Emergency force fields activate, but Kira knows they will not last long within the atmosphere. The crew must help the deck to save the rest of the ship. This will mean sacrificing the crewmates in sick bay, plus Dax and Muniz in the Jeffries tube. Dr. Bashir begins evacuating sick bay. Dax and Muniz are working as fast as they can to finish their job. Sisko gives them 30 seconds to clear out before he orders that entire deck be sealed off. As Bashir hears everyone behind a bulkhead, he sees Dax and Muniz heading toward them. However, it is too late. The force field collapses, filling the corridor with swirling poisonous gas. Muniz suddenly stumbles toward Bashir, who pulls him to safety. Cisco ordering the bulkhead closed and Dax still missing. Bashir makes up his mind. He hits the switch to close the door, holds his breath, and runs out in the decompressed hallway after he hears Dax call out his name. Bashir manages to find Dax's unconscious form in the rolling gas and drags her to an open turbo lift. He hurriedly uses the door panel to close the door manually and repressurizes the turbo lift. They're safe, but notices that the communication system is broken. They're trapped in the small space together. Kira suddenly notes that the impulse engines are back online. As far as I know, it was Dax's final sacrifice. The Divine gains added altitude and resumes searching for the Karema. In the mess hall, Quark tries to salvage the trade deal, flatter Hemlock for uncovering his clever scam, but Hemlock rebukes him a second time. On the bridge, Kira's found another blip, and she thinks it is a Jem'Hadar ship. She turns off the pulses, and the Defiant, now flying blind, crosses by the Jem'Hadar's last known position. Cisco orders a full stop and shutdown of all non-essential systems. They'll fire one of the modified atmospheric probes and hope it homes in and destroys the Jem'Hadar ship. Worf Akira warns Cisco that if the Jem'Hadar ship has changed course and moved out of range, the probe won't find anything and may end up targeting the Defiant instead. Cisco notes the risk, but decides to take the chance anyway. The Defiant fires the probe, and mainly Jem'Hadar ship ambushes them from behind, weapons blazing. The score several direct hits, and the bridge in particular takes serious damage, with Captain Cisco getting thrown off his feet, causing him to bang his head on a console to the left of his chair. Their attackers are about to finish him off when the probe homes in and blows the Jem'Hadar ship into dust. The crew have taken out one enemy vessel, but the Defiant is severely damaged. Venus tries to contact the bridge, but O'Brien tells him not to waste his breath. He is convinced that the bridge crew have all been killed. Fortunately, some of the bridge crew did survive, although the bridge systems did not. Junior officers Boyce and Peterson are dead, and Cisco's on the floor, bleeding from a concussion and barely conscious. Carson heads below to find a medic, while Worf goes to main engineering. Kieran says if Cisco falls asleep, he'll likely slip into a coma, but she can't risk using a stimulant. Worf advises her to keep Cisco awake by talking to him and to keep his attention. In the turbo lift on deck 2, Dax and Bashir remain trapped. They have a few hours of air left in lift. Dax coughs up some fluorine gas. She thanks Bashir for rescuing her and muses how much their relationship has changed. A year ago, if you'd done something like this, I would thought you were just trying to be a hero, she teases. Now that I know you better, I realize it was just a really stupid thing to do. Meanwhile, Quark attempts again to change Hinox's mind. He can't believe the Chroma conducts all their business ventures above board. Where's the greed, he asks. Hinox can't believe the Ferengi would gamble away their business prospects just for a few strips of platinum more. Worf arrives in the engine room and takes command. With his typical authoritarian manner, he berates and orders O'Brien's staff around. Meanwhile, Kira tries to keep Cisco awake by talking about mundane work issues, but Cisco is falling asleep. The rail said they always talk about work, and Kira confesses that Cisco being the revered emissary means that she finds it hard to relax and be herself around him. In response, Cisco asks Kira if she could tell him a story. In the engine room, they picked up 2 more blips, but they're too small and too fast to be ships. It dawns on O'Brien. They're torpedoes. The Defiant swerves to port, and the first warhead misses, but they cannot dodge the second torpedo in time. Everyone braces for impact, but nothing happens. Meanwhile, Quark and Nog in the mess hall stare at a Jem'Hadar torpedo that has lodged itself in the back wall. Nog's just leaving the mess hall and getting help, but Quark knows that it's pointless since the torpedo will destroy the ship if it goes off. Quark instead decides to attempt to defuse the warhead and put safeguarding skills to work. The engine room guesses where the torpedo impacted the hull, but they are cut off from the mess hall. When Steven expresses his doubts in Worf's command to strengthen structural integrity in that area, Worf cuts him off. O'Brien privately reminds Worf that his engineers aren't officers who attend Starfleet Academy, but enlisted crewmen who are used to doing their jobs and being given a problem and solving their own way. It's just a Worf loosen up the reins and let his men do what they're good at. Worf vows to consider his advice. Trapped in turbolift, Bashir muses how, when he first arrived at the station, he fantasized that he and Dax would be trapped adrift on a runabout. He explains that it was because she was always avoiding him, and Dax explains that it's because he came on too strong. They exchange a laugh. In the engine room, Worf approaches Venus and Stevens and asks their help in improvising another weapon. Venus reminds them of their remaining atmospheric probe, but Worf has another use in mind for an request an alternative. Venus and Stevens brainstorm realize that although the phaser emitters are fused, the phaser generator is undamaged. Stevens enthusiastically proposes using the deflector ray as a makeshift phaser emitter. Respectfully awaits Worf's approval. Venus adds the array will overload after a single shot. Worf tells him that it is all he will need. He approves their plan, and when asked them how long necessary modifications will take, they just tell him 10 minutes if they can bypass the safeties. On the bridge, Sisko's condition worsens and he begins to slip into unconsciousness. Kira decides to risk giving him a stimulant and, determined to do anything to stop the emissary of the prophets from dying, begins to bring over his prone body in her native tongue. In the engine room, the deflector weapon is reconfigured. The echolocation pulse is restarted, and the crew wait anxiously for the final confrontation. In the mess hall, Quark has managed to open the warhead. Hanak points to 2 diodes and tells Quark that one will turn off the power, the other will trigger the detonator. Quark questions his knowledge. Hanak admits these torpedoes are made and sold by the Karema. Quark admits that Hanak stole the gem with our substandard merchandise, since the torpedoes meant to detonate on impact. Hanak jokes that maybe he should offer them a refund, and then laughs heartily, and Quark joins in. After several moments of shared laughter, Quark returns to the subject of the torpedo. Hanak admits he doesn't know which diode does what. Quark proposes that they just take a chance and guess. When Hanak hesitates, Quark just spits a random diode and pulls it out, and the torpedo powers down. "I think we have a winner," Quark says quietly. Afterward, Hanak admits the gamble was exciting. This time, Quark challenges him to reopen trade negotiations. Hanak accepts. In engineering, O'Brien reports the Jem'Hadar ship is logged onto the Tetryon pulse and is closing in. Too late, it discovers the source of the pinging is actually the second atmospheric probe. The event ambushes them from behind, destroying the Jem'Hadar with a single deflector blast. In Quark's, Minister Hanak, invigorated from living on the edge, takes up Dabo. To Quark's deritment, he turns out to be natural at it. Dax invites Bashir to a game of darts, rescuing him from a dull conversation with Morn regarding his large family. Steven gives Worf the repair schedule, and to his delight, Worf allows the engineers to proceed at their own discretion. However, O'Brien interrupts, and Carter tells Stevens he has 12 hours to complete the repairs. After Steven leaves, O'Brien stage remarks to Worf, "You could give them a little slack, but you can't take your hands off the reins." In Ops, O'Gruffing Sisko finishes the meeting with Kira in his office and then asks if she would like to accompany him to a baseball game in the holosuites. Kira gladly accepts and tosses her the baseball cap to wear for the game. Nice. Alright, so let's take a look at some continuity and trivia surrounding this episode. Kira Globson, who plays Jake Sisko, does not appear in this episode. Kira's suggestion of setting up a 4-shift crew rotation on Deep Space Nine was later put into effect in Accession. James Cromwell previously appeared twice in Next Generation, playing Nayrock in The Hunted and Jekyll and Shrek in Birthright Part 1 and 2. He went on to play Ephraim Cochrane in Star Trek First Contact and in the pilot episode of Star Trek Enterprise Broken Bow. He also appeared as the Mirror Universe version of Ephraim Cochrane in the Enterprise episode In a Mirror Darkly, though only in archive footage taken from First Contact. This is Cromwell's first and only appearance in DS9, and his last credited appearance in the Star Trek television series, since both of his appearances in Enterprise are uncredited. The A story bears a close resemblance to that of the Star Trek Next Generation episode Disaster, in which the main characters were all seen dealing with various different situations aboard the stricken USS Enterprise D, as happens on the defined in this episode. In the same episode, Riker says that everyone on the bridge is likely dead, but in fact, O'Brien was among the few officers alive on the bridge. In this episode, O'Brien is the one who says that the bridge crew was likely dead. The Homestead Gray baseball cap, worn by Nana Visitor, was sold off in the Insurap sale auction on eBay. Nice. So overall, this episode is very, very tense, and you're just kind of hoping everyone makes that alive and stuff, and thankfully they'll do. So yeah. So overall, I give Starship Down 4 warp cores out of 5. Well, anyway, tune tomorrow as we take a look at the next episode, Little Green Men. So, until then, Live long and prosper, everybody.